You just stand up when we like. When we place under arrest. All right.
Step forward.
You want evidence?
What's that?
Turn around for me, sir.
We're not going to discuss that here. Okay.
Put your hands together for me like.
He stood on the American Idol stage, singing his heart out in front of millions of people, a small-town kid chasing his dream. But years later, Caleb Flynn would find himself at the center of a story far darker than anyone could have imagined. His wife was dead, and police weren't buying the story he told them, not even for a second. So what really happened that night? How does someone go from performing on one of the biggest stages in the world to being accused of murder? And what exactly did investigators find that made them believe he staged the entire scene? Stick with us, because this case goes much deeper than the headlines suggest. It is 2:30 in the morning. A quiet cul-de-sac in Tipp City, Ohio sits still beneath a winter sky. Porch lights glow softly. Minivans rest in driveways. Two little girls sleep in their beds, tucked beneath blankets in a house that looks exactly like every other house on the street. Safe. Ordinary. Untouched by violence. Then the phone rings at Miami County 911. A man is screaming. His voice cracks and breaks between words.
Oh my God, somebody broke into my home. Somebody broke into my home and shot my wife.
Are they still in there?
I don't know.
Okay, what's the address?
932 Cunningham Court, Tipp City, Ohio. Please hurry. Please hurry.
What are you seeing?
My wife she's got 2 shots to her head. There's blood everywhere. Oh my God. Sir, please.
Ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath, okay? Do you still see anybody in the house?
No, the door to the garage was wide open. Please hurry, please. Oh my God. My daughters are here. My daughters are here.
Where's she at?
She's in the bed.
Are you with her?
I am in the room. I'm looking at her. Yes, please.
Okay, do you guys have the door locked?
We have the doors to the garage locked, but into the house, yes. Please. Oh my God.
Where's that room at in the house? My partner's getting them dispatched, okay? But I need you to answer my questions so I can get you help as fast as I can, okay?
What question?
Before we go any further, I need you to understand something about this case. Because everything you think you know about this story in the first few minutes is going to shift. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. And by the end, you will be left asking a question that still does not have a clean answer. Let us go back to that call. Caleb gives the dispatcher his address. He begs them to hurry. His voice sounds like a man drowning on dry land. The dispatcher asks if the intruder is still inside the home. Caleb says he does not know. He says the words fast, almost overlapping. He sounds terrified. But here is the first detail that makes investigators slow down. He tells the dispatcher his wife was shot twice. 2 shots to the head. He is specific. He does not say she is hurt. He does not say he heard a noise. He says 2 shots. To the head. Think about that for a moment. In the middle of sheer panic, with adrenaline flooding his body, this man offers a detail that is almost clinical. Almost too precise. As if he already knows exactly what happened. As if he has already seen it clearly. Or as if he was there when it happened. Now, I am not telling you he did it. Not yet. Because this story is far more complicated than one phone call. But I want you to hold that detail in your mind. Because it is going to matter later. Police arrive within minutes. The body camera footage from that night has been partially released by the Tipp City Police Department. Much of the visual has been redacted. The images of the bedroom. The images of Ashley. Those are blacked out. But the audio is not. And the audio tells a story of its own. When officers walk in, Caleb is shaking. He is pacing. He can barely stand. A first responder tells him to sit down. He refuses.
I checked this right here. Nothing else. Okay. Are in the bedroom over there. They're still asleep.
Okay, have you checked on them?
The 911, yes. Right now, no one else comes in here. Period. No, every door. No one.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Hey, sit. Can you want to sit down?
No.
Okay. Take a breath.
Is she gone, sir?
Look at me. Look at me. Take a breath. Okay.
I can't.
Look at me. I need you to breathe. Okay.
What do I do with my daughters?
Right now. Right now, I need you to breathe. Okay. Are you able to tell me her information? Yeah. I know this is really difficult. Okay.
Thank you.
What's your name? Caleb. I'm sorry. Okay.
Dick, with 230, 230.
Oh, Ashley's dead. No, Ashley's dead. She's dead.
He is asked if he has checked on his daughters. He says yes. The girls are still asleep. Both of them. Still in their rooms. And this is where investigators begin to quietly take note. Because 2 gunshots just rang out inside this house. In the middle of the night. In the room where his wife was sleeping. And 2 small children in nearby bedrooms did not wake up. And their father, who says he was inside the home when this happened, did not rush to get them out. Did not grab them. Did not carry them to safety. Instead, he called 911. And he waited. Now, you might say that is shock. You might say that is a man frozen in terror. And maybe it is. People respond to trauma in unpredictable ways. There is no script for how a person should react when their world falls apart in the space of a few seconds. But there is something else that stands out about this night. Something the officers notice almost immediately. Caleb tells them the intruder came in through the garage. He says the door from the garage into the house is open. He is specific about this too. He knows the exact point of entry. He does not guess. He does not wonder. He tells them as though it is a fact he already possesses. The officers look at each other. One of them says something quiet into her radio. The words are simple, but they carry weight. Someone needs to be watching him. That is not a sentence you say about a victim. That is a sentence you say about a suspect. Ashley Flynn is dead. Her 2 daughters are asleep in the next room. And her husband is standing in the driveway, sobbing, shaking, telling anyone who will listen that a stranger came in and destroyed his family. But the people whose job it is to separate truth from performance are already beginning to wonder. Is this a grieving husband? Or is this something else entirely? Because there is something about Caleb Flynn that the public does not know yet. Something about who he was before this night. Something that made him a familiar face to thousands of people across the country. And when that piece of the puzzle surfaces, this case takes on a dimension no one in Tipp City expected. If you are watching this and this story already has you leaning forward, do me a favor. Subscribe to Hidden Verdict right now so you do not miss a single chapter of this case. Hit the like button. Drop a comment and tell me what your gut tells you about that 911 call. Because what comes next is going to challenge everything you think you have figured out. Before Caleb Flynn became a name attached to a murder indictment, he was something else entirely. He was a dreamer, a singer, a man who stood in front of television cameras and told the world what made him special. It was 2014. Season 12 of American Idol. Caleb walks into the audition room carrying a guitar and a quiet confidence. The producers ask him a simple question. What makes you unique? His answer is immediate. I absolutely love the Lord. I love my wife more than anything. Those words aired on national television. Millions of people heard them. And in that moment, Caleb Flynn was not a suspect. He was not a defendant. He was a husband who wore his devotion like a badge of honor. He earned a golden ticket that day. He made it past the first round. Past the blind auditions in front of the judges. He was eliminated before the live shows, but it did not matter. In Tipp City, Ohio, Caleb Flynn was already a local celebrity. He played in the church band. He led worship services. His voice filled the sanctuary on Sunday mornings, and people in the congregation trusted him with something sacred: their faith, their community, their belief that the man standing at the microphone was exactly who he appeared to be. Ashley Flynn was part of that world too. She was a middle school volleyball coach, a substitute teacher, the kind of woman who showed up for other people's children and gave her time without asking for anything in return. People in Tipp City did not just know the Flynns. They admired them. 2 young daughters, a house on a quiet cul-de-sac, a family that seemed to live inside a photograph. The kind of photograph you see on a church bulletin board or a Christmas card taped to a refrigerator. And that is what makes this case so disorienting. Because when someone shatters a picture that beautiful, the people holding the frame do not want to believe it. They cannot believe it. And in the hours after Ashley was found dead, that is exactly what happened. The body camera footage from that night shows a woman arriving at the Flynn home. She has not been officially identified, but she comes to comfort Caleb. She holds him. She tells him she does not understand. Caleb is shaking. He says the same words over and over. "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do."
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do either.
She tells him she does not know what to do either. And there is a rawness to that moment that is hard to watch. Because either this man has just lost the love of his life in the most violent way imaginable, or he is performing grief with such precision that even the people closest to him cannot see through it. This is one of the cruelest aspects of cases like this. When someone is deeply embedded in a community, when they have built trust over years, when their identity is wrapped up in faith and family, it becomes nearly impossible for the people around them to reconcile the person they know with the person the police are describing. And that tension plays out in real time when Caleb is taken to the Tipp City Police Department. Whether it is the same night or the following day, the timeline is not entirely clear. But Caleb is standing in the lobby of the police station. There is a man beside him. A friend. A supporter. Someone who clearly believes in Caleb's innocence. And then officers walk in and place Caleb Flynn under arrest. The man standing beside him reacts with visible shock. He questions it. He challenges it. He cannot process what he is witnessing. The disbelief is genuine. And that is the thing about manipulation that people rarely talk about. The best kind does not just fool strangers. It fools the people standing right next to you. Now, I want to be careful here. Because at this stage of the case, Caleb Flynn has pleaded not guilty. He is entitled to the presumption of innocence. And nothing I say in this video should be taken as a verdict. But I also want you to notice something. The pattern that emerges when you step back and look at Caleb Flynn through the lens of this investigation. He knew his wife was shot twice. He knew the garage door was open. He did not wake his children. He kept a gun in his truck. And the people closest to him never saw it coming. That is not proof of anything. But it is the kind of pattern that makes experienced detectives reach for a second cup of coffee and clear their schedules. Because the investigation is about to widen. The FBI is about to get involved. And what they find is going to push this case from local tragedy to something far more calculated. The dogs sent out that night to track the alleged intruder come back with nothing. The drones that sweep the area find no trace of anyone fleeing the scene. And slowly, the theory that a violent stranger broke into the Flynn home in the middle of the night begins to collapse under its own weight. But the question that replaces it is even harder to ask. If no one broke in, then the person who killed Ashley Flynn was already inside the house. And there were only 3 other people in that house. 2 of them were children. Let me take you back inside that house for a moment. not to the bedroom. The police have redacted that footage, and for good reason. But to the garage, to the truck parked in the driveway, to the small details that investigators are now examining with surgical precision. Caleb told police he keeps a handgun in the center console of his vehicle. That is not unusual in Ohio. Plenty of people keep firearms in their cars. But here is what is unusual. When officers walked to the truck that night, the center console is open. Not closed. Not locked. Open. Now, think about what that means. If Caleb is telling the truth, if a stranger broke into his home and shot his wife, then the gun in the truck is irrelevant. It should be sitting right where he left it. Closed. Untouched. Just another firearm belonging to a man who legally owns several. But the console is open. And the officers notice it immediately. They examine the truck. They look for blood. They look for signs of disturbance. One officer calls out something that briefly raises alarm. But it turns out to be paint. Not blood. Paint. Still, the open console lingers in the minds of the investigators. Because it raises a question that does not have a comfortable answer. Was that gun moved? Was it used? And if it was, by whom? Now, we do not yet know publicly whether the weapon used to kill Ashley has been identified. We do not know if ballistics have matched any of the firearms in the Flynn household to the bullets recovered from the scene. That information has not been released as of the time this story is being told. But what we do know is that the police were not satisfied with the intruder theory. Not even close. They deployed K-9 units that night. Dogs trained to track human scent. If someone had fled the Flynn home after shooting Ashley, those dogs should have picked up a trail. They did not. They sent drones into the air the following day. Infrared. Thermal. Looking for any sign of a person hiding, running, or moving through the area around the Flynn home. They found nothing. No footprints. No broken fences. No disturbed landscaping. No neighbor's security camera catching a figure in the dark. The intruder that Caleb described simply did not leave a trace. And in criminal investigations, that means one of two things. Either this intruder was extraordinarily skilled at evading every form of detection available to modern law enforcement, or this intruder does not exist. Now, let me ask you something directly. If you were an investigator standing in that driveway at 3 in the morning, looking at an open center console, listening to a man who knows exactly how many times his wife was shot and exactly which door the intruder used, and your dogs are coming back with nothing, what would you think? You do not have to answer. But the investigators did. And that answer led them to bring in the FBI. The involvement of federal investigators in a local homicide is significant. It does not happen casually. It means the local authorities believe the scope of this case may extend beyond what their department can handle alone. It means they suspect something that requires resources, technology, and expertise that a small-town police department does not have on its own. We do not know everything the FBI uncovered. That information is being held close by prosecutors as they prepare for trial. But we do know this. Whatever they found was enough to convince a grand jury. And not just on one charge. On 11. Because while the community was still grieving, while people were still lighting candles and posting tributes to Ashley online, while Caleb Flynn was sitting in a jail cell maintaining his innocence, a grand jury in Miami County, Ohio was reviewing evidence. And what they saw led them to return one of the most sweeping indictments this community has ever seen. 4 counts of murder. For the death of one woman.
Flynn, you have several charges here. Count 1 is a murder charge, is a count felony of the first degree. Count 2 is 2 and 3 are both felonious assault charges, second-degree felonies. Count 4 is tampering with evidence, a third-degree felony, and that's count 4. Count 5 is tampering with evidence, a third-degree felony. Mr. Falker?
Mr. Flynn would tender pleas not guilty and would ask for this matter to be scheduled for a preliminary hearing.
So the court has to establish a bond, sir, to ensure that your appearance, okay? So the court will establish a bond, and you have the right to tell me, hey, I'm not a flight risk, I am a flight risk, or anything of that nature. Is there anything you would want to tell me about that?
Sir, I just want to take care of my daughters. I'm not at risk.
I understand. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, the
charges laid out across 4 pages, each one carrying the weight of a life destroyed and a family shattered beyond recognition. But here is the part that stopped me cold when I first read it. Tampering with evidence. 3 counts. That means prosecutors believe Caleb Flynn did not just kill his wife. They believe he tried to cover it up. They believe he manipulated the scene, altered something, moved something, destroyed something. And if that is true, then the sobbing on the 911 call, the shaking on the body camera footage, the pacing in the driveway, all of it takes on a different meaning. Because it means that in the minutes between whatever happened in that bedroom and the moment he picked up the phone to call for help, Caleb Flynn may have been busy. Not grieving, not panicking, but cleaning up. And then there are the intimidation charges. Who did he allegedly try to silence? And when? Was it before the grand jury convened? Was it after his arrest? Were threats made? Were promises exchanged? Those answers have not been released. But they paint a portrait of a man who, according to prosecutors, was not just violent in a single moment. He was strategic in the aftermath. And that is the difference between a crime of passion and something premeditated. Caleb Flynn stands in a courtroom. He is wearing what appears to be jail-issued clothing. His attorney sits beside him. The judge reads the charges aloud. 1 by 1. 11 times. Aggravated murder. 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 Felonious assault. Felonious assault. Tampering with evidence. Tampering with evidence. Tampering with evidence. Intimidation. Intimidation. His attorney enters a plea on his behalf. Not guilty. On all 11 counts. Now, I want to explain something here because it is important. Having 4 separate murder charges for the death of one person may seem unusual. It may even seem excessive. But it is not arbitrary. Each charge represents a different legal theory of how and why Ashley Flynn was killed. The aggravated murder charge suggests premeditation. It suggests that prosecutors believe this was not a spontaneous act. It was planned, thought through, decided upon before the trigger was pulled. The 3 additional murder counts represent different angles of the same act. One may allege that Ashley was killed knowingly and purposefully. Another may allege that her death occurred during the commission of another felony. A third may focus on a different element of intent or circumstance. Prosecutors do this for a reason. They are building a net. If one theory does not hold up under the scrutiny of a jury, another might. They are not leaving room for reasonable doubt to slip through a single crack. They are sealing every crack they can find. And here is something else that matters. Attached to each of those murder charges is a firearm specification. That means prosecutors are asserting that a gun was used in the commission of each alleged act. In Ohio, firearm specifications carry their own sentencing consequences. They add years, mandatory years, years that cannot be negotiated or reduced. If Caleb Flynn is convicted on all counts, he faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. That is not a theoretical maximum. That is what prosecutors have stated publicly. And in a state where the death penalty remains legal, even though no one has been executed since 2018, the shadow of that possibility hangs over every proceeding. Now, the bond in this case tells its own story. Originally, Caleb's bond was set at $2 million. That is an enormous sum. It signals that the court considered him a serious flight risk or a danger to the community. But after the grand jury indictment, the judge raised it. $3.5 million. That increase is not routine. It reflects the weight of the new charges. It reflects the court's assessment that the case against Caleb Flynn has grown stronger, not weaker, since his arrest. And while Caleb sits in jail, unable to post bond, Ashley's family is trying to hold together what remains of their world. They released a statement. And I want you to hear it. Because the words they chose matter. Our hearts are shattered. Ashley brought endless light to our world, and we are trying to navigate this immense loss. They go on to say something remarkable. Our family believes this arrest was made carefully and not without serious consideration. After speaking with both local police and federal authorities, we trust the proper steps were taken. Read that again slowly. Ashley's own family is not defending Caleb. They are not standing behind him. They are not calling this a mistake. They are expressing trust in the investigation. Trust in the arrest. Trust that the man who once stood before them and said he loved their daughter more than anything may be the reason she is gone. That is a quiet devastation that no verdict can repair. Ashley would have turned 38 years old just over a week after she was killed. Her family held a private memorial service. No cameras. No public spectacle. Just the people who loved her, standing in a room that felt too empty. And somewhere in that room, there were two little girls. Elementary age. Girls who went to sleep one night in a house that felt safe and woke up in a world that will never feel safe again. Their mother is gone. Their father is behind bars. And the community that once held this family up as an example of faith and devotion is now grappling with a question that has no satisfying answer. How do you reconcile the man who sang worship songs on Sunday morning with a man sitting in a courtroom facing 11 charges? You do not. You simply sit with the discomfort. And you wait. Because this case is not over. The indictment is just the beginning. The trial has not started. The evidence has not been fully presented. And there are still pieces of this puzzle that have not been made public. Including one detail that may determine everything. The murder weapon. Where is it? Has it been found? Has it been matched to a firearm belonging to Caleb Flynn? That question hangs in the air like smoke after a fire. And until it is answered, this case remains open, volatile, and deeply uncertain. Let me leave you with this. There is a moment in the body camera footage that stays with me. It is not the screaming. It is not the pacing. It is not the arrival of police or the quiet redacted images of a bedroom where a woman lost her life. It is a question. Caleb Flynn, standing in his driveway, surrounded by officers, looks at one of them and asks, "What do I do with my daughters?" And the officer says, "Right now, I need you to breathe." That exchange lasts maybe 5 seconds. But it contains the entire weight of this case. Because if Caleb Flynn is innocent, then that question is the most heartbreaking thing a father has ever had to ask. He has just lost his wife. He is standing in the wreckage of his life. And he does not know what to do next. But if Caleb Flynn is guilty, then that question is something else entirely. It is performance. It is calculated. It is a man who has just taken a life and is already thinking about how to appear as though he has not. And that is the cruel paradox of this case. The same words, the same tears, the same shaking hands can mean completely opposite things depending on a truth that only one person in that driveway fully knows. Now, the defense has arguments. Strong ones, potentially. A defense attorney would point out that Caleb called 911 himself. That he did not flee. That he cooperated with officers. That he voluntarily told them about the firearms in his home and in his truck. That he was emotional, cooperative, and transparent. A defense attorney would argue that a man who had just murdered his wife would not behave this way. He would run. He would hide. He would destroy evidence before anyone arrived. He would not stand in his driveway sobbing and asking what to do with his children. And these are fair points. They deserve consideration. But the prosecution has its own set of facts. The specificity of the 911 call. The knowledge of 2 gunshots. The open center console. The garage door that Caleb identified as the point of entry without being asked. The failure to immediately check on his sleeping daughters after claiming a violent intruder had just been inside the home. And then there is what came after. 3 counts of tampering with evidence. 2 counts of witness intimidation. These charges suggest a pattern of behavior that extends beyond a single night. They suggest a man who, according to prosecutors, continued to act after the crime, continued to manipulate, continued to try to control the narrative even as the investigation closed in around him. The FBI does not get involved in a small-town homicide because they have nothing better to do. They get involved because someone, somewhere, saw something that required a deeper look. And what they found was enough to support an 11-count indictment. But an indictment is not a conviction. A grand jury is not a trial jury. And Caleb Flynn has pleaded not guilty on every single charge. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in the space between accusation and proof, between suspicion and certainty, between the image of a man singing about loving his wife on national television and the image of that same man sitting in a courtroom with his hands folded, hearing the word murder read to him 4 separate times. It leaves us thinking about Ashley Flynn, a woman who coached volleyball, who taught other people's children, who showed up to church every Sunday, who went to sleep in her own bed on a February night and never woke up. It leaves us thinking about 2 little girls who are growing up right now without their mother, who may one day sit in a courtroom and hear things about their father that no child should ever have to hear. And it leaves us with a truth that true crime so often forces us to confront. The people we trust the most are sometimes the people we should fear the most. Not because trust is foolish, but because the most dangerous kind of deception is the kind that wears a familiar face and speaks in a voice you have heard 1,000 times before. This case is not finished. The trial has not begun. The evidence has not been fully revealed. And the verdict, whatever it turns out to be, will either confirm the worst fears of a grieving family or expose one of the most aggressive prosecutions this county has ever seen. Either way, 2 little girls are at the center of it. And no matter what happens next, they have already lost more than any child ever should. This has been Hidden Verdict. If this story affected you, if it made you think, if it made you question something you thought you understood, then I am asking you to subscribe to this channel right now. Not because of an algorithm, but because cases like this deserve to be followed all the way to the end. And we will be here when that end comes. Hit the like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment below. Tell me what you believe happened in that house on February 16th. Tell me what you think the evidence will show. Because your voice matters here. And so does Ashley's. We will see you in the next one.